Super. Well, thank you all for coming. We weren't sure what kind of a crowd we would draw. I know it's spring break week, and this is the first time that we've offered something like this to the community, so oftentimes you just never know. It's hit and miss. But I appreciate you all making the time to come out tonight. Not that everybody's not busy, but especially our city councilors. You have so many meetings as it is, so thank you very much, and Gene, Planning Commission. So I am going to go over a couple things and then introduce Moji and let him take over. But we wanted to have this class because we've wanted to have it for a while, just to provide some high-level information to our community about traffic safety and get some of the same information we get. Moji has come and provided in-service training to our officers as well. And the timing really was perfect because, as most of you know, I'm sure, Council has approved adding speed enforcement to our existing cameras. We're not adding any new cameras, we're just going to add automated speed enforcement at the ones we have because we believe there's a speeding problem up and down 99W, and the new state law allows us to address that. Why wouldn't we want to address it? So the timing then is also, is good for that, but also just general knowledge about traffic safety and kind of what it means. So keep in mind that this is a high-level overview, and it's not going to be specific to any particular neighborhood, and he's not here, Moji's not here to address any particular neighborhood concerns, but you can certainly phone those in, and we will be glad to put out a focus patrol for those. One thing I wanted to share with you is it's an executive summary from the Nashville Transportation Safety Board. Did a study on speeding, so I just want to share a couple things. They looked at crashes from 2005 through 2014 in which a law enforcement officer indicated a vehicle's speed was a factor. And in there was 112,580 fatalities where the officer indicated speeding was a factor through those years. So 31% of all traffic fatalities were attributed to speeding. So they looked at that. Another thing that they point out is the relationship between speed and crash involvement is complex. Here's the one I'm looking for, sorry. Speed, and therefore speeding, increases crash risk in two ways. One, it increases the likelihood of being involved in a crash, and two, it increases the severity of injuries sustained by road users in a crash, all road users. So that was the part I wanted to point out. And then, kind of the most important part, based on what we just talked about, is they make several recommendations, and one of the things that they point out, and I'll just go ahead and read the first part of this paragraph. Automated speed enforcement is also widely acknowledged as an effective countermeasure to reduce speeding-related crashes, fatalities, and injuries. However, only 14 states and the District of Columbia use it. Many states have laws that prohibit or place operational restrictions on automated speed enforcement, and federal guidelines for automated speed enforcement are outdated and not well known among program administrators. So they really talk about increasing the use of automated speed enforcement in their recommendations. You can find this study online. It's not hard to find if you Google it. Obviously there's a lot to it, and I just grabbed 2.5 pages. So, and as I said, that's important to us because we're getting ready to add that. We don't want to be tied down with crashes on 99W, speeding issues on 99W. It's hard to enforce, especially at those huge intersections. We really can't do it. So for us, this is a great way to keep people's speed down as they drive through Sherwood. And most of the people that are going to be violating speeding, we believe, are in a very similar demographic to those that are violating our red lights. And that is 85% of them don't live here. Let me state that another way. Only 8% of the folks that are getting photo red light tickets are Sherwood residents. 8%. So there's a certain percent that are out of state, and then a huge percent that are just out of town. So anyway, with that, I will turn it over to Mojtaba Takallou, and he comes to us from the University of Portland. And this man has probably forgotten more about this topic than than I will ever know. So it's an honor to have you here, sir. Thank you very much for coming.
Sure. Well, it is a great pleasure to be here. And before that I start on my introduction, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Chief Grout, as well as his assistant, Miss Angie Hess. She's a very organized person, and I really appreciate it. I have met Chief several times. Sometimes, I call him and then I come and have a chat with him. We discuss, usually we come for 15 minutes and usually it lasts 2 hours. I don't know why. But he also came last year and he also had a couple presentations for your police department. The good thing is that your chief is a very passionate person and very proactive about traffic safety. And I really admire him for all of the things that he has done for the city of Sherwood. As Chief mentioned, my name is Mojtaba Takallou. I am Professor of Civil Engineering at University of Portland. I have been teaching for the past 33 years, but I have been involved with highway safety for over 36 years. I also have been on many high-profile cases, which usually it was fatalities. And besides, teaching workshops for the decision makers, that's what you are, city councilors, commissioners, as well as our citizens. I conduct a series of the workshops for Public Works Department, how to build a safer roadways. Then I also conduct a series of the workshops for law enforcement agencies, why they have to enforce the law and what should be the outcome. And then we also, decision makers is also very, very important. I didn't come here just to preach you. I want just to give you the facts. And after the facts, then we go ahead and look at some enforcement solutions. We also look at some engineering solutions as well as education solutions. Our program is sponsored by U.S. Department of Transportation, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, as well as Transportation Safety Division of Oregon Department of Transportation. My objective is to discuss the challenges of the highway safety in the 21st century. What do you think, what are your challenges in this area? Do you have any challenges?
Speeding.
What is it?
Speeding.
Speeding is a challenge. Anything else?
Distracted driving.
Distracted drivers.
And pedestrians.
And pedestrians, right? The people, they are not opening their eyes anymore. They are just closing their eyes. As a matter of fact, Chief showed up here a few minutes and I still was answering or responding to all of my text messages. When I came and I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "I am the chief that we already met several times." So that you can say, yes, driver distraction is a major issue. Pedestrian distractions is a major issue. We are not using the cars for mobility anymore. We are using that one as an office space these days. We also would like to discuss the role of the law enforcement agencies for meeting safety goals as well as pedestrian safety. We want to talk about types, causes, and costs of traffic crashes. We discuss the dangerous pedestrian behaviors, discuss enforcement strategies, and I would like everybody thinking about highway safety and its place in their lives. The challenges that we have, we do have a very limited budget, limited staffing, limited time, or crash data is not perfect. There is lack of understanding of how important is highway safety. There is lack of coordination between the Public Works Department, law enforcement agencies, as well as educators. And there are competing priorities for limited money that you have. As well as politics, it plays a major role in our decision-making process. One thing that we make a mistake, we think that all of these, they are accidents, they are not. What does accident mean? Accident, it means acts of God. That's not your fault. What it happens, we actually have crashes. And what's crashes? That means someone used poor driving tactics as well as judgments. Why we call it crashes? 67% of the crashes, it was totally 100% of the fault of the human. When we add that the problem started from human, roadway plays some role, that adds up 24%. And when you look at it, the problem starts from human, roadway plays some role, so as vehicle plays some role, it adds up 4%. If I add up these numbers, it adds up to about 95%. 95% of the crashes can be avoided if we can modify the driver's behavior. And roadway by itself is only 4% of the problems. What are the problems? Is going to be what? Drivers, which they are involved in speed, alcohol, and drugs. Those are the big factors. Every day is a 911 on our roadway system. We have seen crashes like this. This happened in Hermiston, Oregon in 1999. 7 people, they were killed. 27 people, they were injured. 50 cars, they were involved in this traffic crash. You have to see the pictures to believe it, that what can happen in traffic crash. You also may say that build the roadways to the high standard, the crash does not happen. It's still going to happen. If you look at right here, this is I-84 near the Dalles. It has good lane, 12 feet. It has 10 feet right shoulder. It has rumble strips. It has concrete barrier for separation. Everything that you can see is perfect, but we still had this crash. One thing that a lot of law enforcement agencies, they put a lot of emphasis on violent crime. But unfortunately, they don't know the importance of the traffic. What I did, I compared just the traffic crashes versus violent crime here. There is one traffic fatality happens every 15 minutes compared to one murder cases every 33.5 minutes in this country. One person is being injured in traffic crash every 13 seconds compared to one violent crime every 26 seconds. One property damage crashes happens every 7 seconds compared to one property crime every 3.9 seconds. And one law enforcement reported crashes happens every 5 seconds compared to one burglary every 20 seconds. I had a lot of meetings with the various chief of the police, with the sheriff, Oregon State Police. And believe me or not, we are using about 5% of our resources in traffic-related area. And 95% is used in the other areas. But at the same time, I am not saying that we emphasize on this one, but this is going to be very important as well. And you can see that how we can save the people and how we can save the injuries in this country. This country is big. The reason I am using 2015 statistic because those are the latest one which is available. The population of this country was 321 million. We had 35,000 fatalities, traffic fatalities, 2.4 million traffic injuries, 4.5 million property damage crashes, for a total of 6.3 million crashes in this country, because of $242 billion. This is the latest one that we just received. In 2016, we had 37,491 traffic fatalities in this country, which went up almost over 2,000. We also had pedestrian, it was the highest, 5,987 since 1991. This is the highest that we ever had. A motorcyclist fatality, it also went up 5,256. Bicyclists 840, the rest is relatively stayed the same. Look at alcohol. Alcohol, it was 10,497 of those fatalities, they were alcohol related. Speed related, it was 10,111. What does that mean? By tomorrow at this time, 96 more people, they are going to be killed. and 6,693 more people, they are going to be injured. We are going to have 17,000 crashes is going to happen within the next 24 hours in the United States. Perhaps you remember those images. September 11, 2001, the darkest day in US history of our lifetime, and hopefully the history never repeats itself. What happened that day? The terrorists, they attacked the World Trade Center as well as Pentagon. The country was attacked. Do you know how many innocent lives we lost that day?
3,000.
About 3,000. All of you, you know, about 3,000. Yes, we lost 3,030 innocent lives. One life is too many. But can I ask you how many people they have been killed in traffic crash since that time? Can you give me a figure? 70,000, right? See how easy it was, that 3,000 for you? 610,000 people, they have been killed in this country since that time in traffic-related crashes. Do you know how many people they have been injured since that time? 10 times less? 40,500,000 people they have been injured in this country in traffic-related crashes. How many crashes this has happened? 95 million crashes. How much did it cost us? $4.3 trillion. Some of us, we don't get the feeling about the numbers. Let me show you that how large is 610,000 people. What I did, here is Portland, Oregon. Here is Sacramento, California. The distance of 580 miles. I assumed the height of the person, he or she was 5'3" inches. I put this dead body end to end on center line of the I-5. It covered from Portland, Oregon to Sacramento, California. Can you imagine that we are driving 10 hours and we see all of this dead body on the center line of the roadway? About the injuries. When we want to go around the earth, it is 24,902 miles. If I put these injuries, it covers the entire earth, and then it goes a quarter farther. About the cost. Here is the earth, here is the moon. The distance is 238,900 miles. I said, let's have $100 bill, which is 6 inches long. Every single year, you can reach from Earth to the moon with $100 bill for the costs of the traffic crashes. This is very interesting for us just to look at it, that we see that from 2007, we were going down on the traffic crashes, then it flattened up for the next 5 years. Then for the past 3 years or so, it went up again, but about something like 2,000 per year. Which is very alarming for us, that what's really happening? Is it really alcohol related? Is it drug related? Is it driver distraction? We have to find the causes to able to stop this one to go up. This gives us the speed related crashes, which the chief mentioned. Approximately, we are talking about 10,000 per year. Well, it used to be about 13,000, but because of the safer cars, as well as better enforcement on the roadway, and right now we are talking about close to about 10,000 per year. That includes, it used to be 32% of our fatalities, now it's about 27% of our fatalities are speed related. This is alcohol. In terms of alcohol, it was about 13,000 in 2007. Now we went to about 10,500. Actually, you know that we have done better job in alcohol, but the other countries is doing much better job than we do. When a person is arrested that he was impaired behind the wheel, Chief, how long does it take that He goes to he's arrested by the time that he will be released.
After, you mean after he's arrested?
Yes,
Could be released immediately.
immediately. That's the problem with our law system. In Europe, it's not like that. You go to jail. So as in other countries, I think our laws, they are very lean because what? Drinking is socially acceptable. Yes, drinking is also socially acceptable in Europe, but responsible drinking is acceptable. So we have to do a little bit better on that one. The other things that we also look at it right here, 54% of our fatalities, they were what? They were not wearing their seatbelts, and now it's still 48%. Half of the people, they are being killed, they are not wearing their seatbelts. Which is really a shame that we are, in Oregon, we are claiming that we are having a seatbelt compliances of 96.5%, but when we look at the real data, we see that about 50% of our people that they are being killed, they are unbelted. The major problems that we are having are distracted drivers, which she mentioned before. I like that you look at this picture. Do you see anything wrong in this picture? Everything is perfect, right? Nice and blue sky. It happened at 10 o'clock in the morning. The road is as straight as you can imagine. It has good lanes, good shoulders, rumble strips, but still this car went to the end of the barrier. And you see what happened at the end. That was results of what? That person, he fell asleep behind the wheel. So no matter what we do, these crashes on random basis is going to happen. And we have to make those awareness. Driver distraction in 2015, it cost us 3,477 lives. It cost us 291,000 injuries, 617,000 property damage crashes, which was about 885,000 of those. It was totally related to driver distraction, which was 14% of our crashes. Cell phone in the United States, 476 fatalities, 30,000 injuries, 48,000 property damage, and 69,000 overall total crashes. These are the actual ones that we can count it, but a lot of people, they are not being caught for them. What is driver distraction? Usually it's texting, using cell phones, eating and drinking, talking to a passenger, using a navigation system, adjusting a radio, drowsy or fatigue, or concentrating on something else other than driving. How about these organ traffic crashes? In 2015, we had 447 fatalities, 41,675 injuries, 74 pedestrian crashes, 874 injuries, pedestrian injuries. For every 100 million vehicle miles that we drive in Oregon, 1.24% was killed. 2016, you see that how high did we go? 492. The pedestrian, 72, 10 bicyclists, and 55 motorcyclists. 2017, we came down a little bit, 427 fatalities, 70 pedestrian, and 8 bicyclists, and 53 motorcyclists. To look at it, for every 100,000 population, we used to be 8.58 fatalities. Now in 2015, it was 11.14. So you see that we are on the upward trend. In 2015, out of 447 fatalities, 135 of those in Oregon, they were speed related, which was 30%. That is very much like national average. And 187 of those, they were alcohol and drug related, which was 41.8%. But when did we legalize marijuana in the state of Oregon? Was it almost 3 years ago, right? By this July, it will be 3 years, Chief?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Maybe
it was 2015. Yeah, July.
It was 2015.
Okay.
All of a sudden, we legalized marijuana. But did we give any more resources to the chief? for enforcement.
We tried.
Well, you tried, but how about the state of Oregon? Our decision makers, they make a decision, but not giving enough resources. So, we say that we are a very liberal state, let's legalize marijuana. I think we should give resources for protections of the people of this state. Economic cost of the motor vehicle crashes. How much does it cost if we can save one life or injuries? We added wages and productivity losses, medical expenses, administrative costs, and motor vehicle damage, and employee costs. In 2015, the average life cost $1.5 million. And disabling injuries, it was $90,000, and property damage, it was $4,200. But we are not including pain and suffering. If you put pain and suffering, that $1.5 million, it comes to be about $9.5 million. That $90,000, it comes to be about $350,000. Motor vehicle crashes are not accident, and it involves a lot of innocent people. 65% of the people, they are being killed or injured, they are totally innocent. They are coming from a game, they are coming from school. Distracted drivers or intoxicated drivers run and head-on collision or something, and killing and injuring that person. Now that I give you the facts, what are your agency's highway safety goals and objectives? Sir, are you one of our city councilor member?
Yes.
Yes. What is your agency's highway safety goals and objectives for this area?
Couldn't tell you.
How many fatalities and injuries do you like to have next year in city of Sherwood?
That would be less than what we have now.
Less than that you have right now. Like what?
0.
0 would be great.
Right?
Realistically, less, 10%, 25% less.
So the goal is 0, right? It's not really the reduction. We would like to establish this goal, and we work to reach towards this goal. 0 fatalities and 0 disabling injuries. The people, they come to Sherwood for what? Or to Oregon for what reason? They come for our landscape. Oregon is beautiful. We have the nice streams, nice colors, obviously cloudy evenings, as well as our ocean, right? Look at how beautiful is Oregon. And we would like to keep it as beautiful as possible for roadway system. Now, what is a beautiful road? Can I ask you what is a beautiful road to you?
To me personally,
Yes.
a dirt road without any traffic on it,
A dirt road with no traffic on it,
where I can walk my dog safe.
right? A safe road. So you're saying a safe road. How about you, sir?
A road that allows me to get from place A to B safely and efficiently.
So the gentleman, he's saying that a road that we can get from one point to another point, but he put what? Safety first, and then efficiency. That's the speed of travel second. Really, a beautiful road is a road with no blood on it. That is a beautiful road, and we must work on the beautifications of the roadway. A road with 0 fatalities and 0 disabling injuries. Highway safety requires commitment. And the commitment has to start from what? From decision makers. You're talking about city councilors. You're talking about chief of the police. You're talking about what? Public works director. You're talking about mayors. Everybody has to have that commitment. Then we need communication. Communication between who and who? Well, law enforcement agencies must work with what? Public works. Here is my public works, my right eye. My left eye is what? My law enforcement. They must focus for a common goal. And that common goal is going to be what? How to educate the public to travel safely from one point to another point. It is not about citation. The chief is not adding, these cameras just to issue citation. He's adding what? As a means of education, to educate the public. If the public can be educated by what? Visibility of a law enforcement agency on the roadway, why not? Why should we even issue citation? So the main thing it is education here. So we start with engineering, which is building the roadways to certain standards. We give it to the law enforcement agency, but both of these groups, they must work and must focus on the common goal, how to educate the public. Then we bring the educators on this as a part of the other element of this one. And the last thing that we want is to have a crash. But if we have a crash, then we need assistance from what? Emergency medical services. That how fast we can get to the site and how fast we can transport it to the hospital. So we need commitment, communication, and cooperation among the agencies. And we have to improve that one. There is no perfect city, but we always can improve it to prevent traffic crashes. Some of the strategies, I didn't come just to talk and preach you. We must have to have a plan. Our plan to have 0 fatalities and 0 disabling injuries. So we shall know where we are now. I look at your statistic in 2015, you didn't have no fatalities. You have about 90 injuries. You had about 187 crashes. I can give you the data for you. I made a copy for you and I will pass it later on. Then we would like to know, where do we want to be in the future? We want to be what? 0 fatalities, 0 disabling injuries. We also want to get there. How to get there? Is it going to be better visibility of law enforcement? Is it hiring another patrol division? Is it going to be using technology such as running red light cameras or photo radar or what? And then we want to measure our progress. We may issue 5,000 citations at certain location, but it may not translate to what? Reductions of traffic crashes. We want to see for the resources that we are putting, is it really solving the problem or not? So for that reason, let's look at from the engineering point of view, enforcement. These two work together for a common goal to educate the public. And after a crash happens, the last thing that we want to do, it is just to have a good emergency medical services. Enforcement is very important for us. Why we enforce traffic laws? What's the reason, Chief, that you're so passionate about traffic?
Change behavior.
He wants to change the behavior. We enforce the traffic laws for changing the behaviors. This crash happened to a 16-year-old kid. He was coming from a game, head-on collision. A drunk driver. He was driving on the wrong side of the roadway, head-on collision. The child was sent to the long-term care after 4.5 months in the hospital. It has been, I think, 15 years since that time. He's still surviving, but he cannot open his eyes. He cannot move. That drunk driver destroyed his life. At the same time, he did what? Look at the entire family. And what that drunk driver is doing today, he's driving in the network today. And that's not fair. That's not really fair at all. This guy, this is another crash that this guy, he bought his first car. He got drunk that night, driving at over 100 miles per hour. His friend couldn't stop him, and he was involved in this traffic crash. He never saw his 17th birthday. Roadside crashes, it involves a lot of innocent people. About 65%, they are totally innocent. One of the first things that we do, we look at it that what the engineers can do. The engineers, they have to look at how the brain functions. We should look at it, how our eyes is going to see and how the eyes is going to send a message to the brain. and how the brain interpolates those messages. So we look at that human errors, then we look at the conflicts, reduce the conflicts to reduce crashes, which is going to be less injury as well as death. The first thing it is, we have to look at the human brain. What do you think, how much information goes to the human brain per second? We have heard the word of bits in the computer. How many bits of the information it goes to the human brain per second? I'm standing right here. What does my eyes do? Take a picture of all of you with the furniture, cameras and everything. It converted to what? Bytes. You send it to the brain. You're sending about 1 billion bits of the information per second to the brain. But how much of that the brain can pay attention to it? How many bits of the information the brain can pay attention? Would you say half of this? Less than that? Like what? 100,000?
Yes, I just think it's not.
A lot less. A fresh brain can only pay attention to 16 bits out of 1 billion. And how much of that one can you remember it next day? About half, right? 0.7. So what the engineers they do, they look at it just what can I do that out of this 1 billion information that it goes to the brain, it picks up the things that I want. So we play with the colors. Red, for what? Regulation. We've used yellow for warnings. Then we use green for what? For guides. Then we look at it that if we make it flasher, the brains can pick up much faster. So the entire traffic engineering, it is just the human psychology. In this city, which was in city of Coquille, the people, they were missing this intersection. So they went to flashing what? Stop sign. Put LEDs around it. Then we came, we had so many pedestrian crashes. We went to what? Rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is this one, right here. And it has been very, very effective. Unfortunately, Federal Highway Administration, they discontinued the use of this one in the month of January, but we just got just a permission again to use it again in the system. And the reason for that one, it was patent infringement rights. Then, how effective is this sign? That it picks up your speed, flashes, and then display that speed for you. Do you think is it effective?
It's effective, yes.
It's effective for the first few weeks that you live around that area. After a few weeks, then it doesn't, you don't pay attention. It's like, the law enforcement agencies that if the police officer stays there at the same location all the time, the people, they are not going to pay as much attention. Other than that, when they surprise us, we pay a lot more attention that day. One of the first thing it is that we must recognize our road dinosaurs. Why there are 37,000 traffic fatalities every year? Why there are over 2.5 million injuries per year? Over 6.5 million crashes? Because we do have road dinosaurs. When you were driving to this presentation, did you see any dinosaur? Did you see this fellow on the roadway? What could be road dinosaurs?
Poor design.
Poor design. What else?
Poor condition of roads?
Poor conditions of the roadway. What else?
Poor drivers.
Poor drivers. Do we have speedy drivers? Do we have distracted drivers? Do we have impaired drivers? Do we have young drivers? Do we have senior drivers? So what is wrong with the young drivers? Why their rate is so high?
Inexperience.
They haven't paid attention.
They have a wonderful perception reaction time, but what? Their judgment is not good.
No, they haven't been doing it long.
Our senior drivers after the age of 75, they do have a good judgment, but their perception reaction time decreases. By the time that they see there is something wrong on the roadway, by the time they want to react, you already passed that object, and that person, he or she, is going to be involved in traffic crash. Speedy drivers, it costs us about what, 30% of our fatalities. Impaired drivers, another 30% of fatalities are related to impaired drivers. Pedestrian, yes, pedestrian, about close to about 40% of them, they are distracted or impaired themselves. Bicyclists, we don't have that much issue with the bicyclists in the state of Oregon. Usually our fatality is between 7 to 10 per year. Motorcyclists, there is a big relationship between alcohol as well as motorcycle fatalities. Distracted and aggressive driver, that's getting worse and worse every day. As well as we also should be careful about our work zone safety area. The pedestrian safety enforcement and speed management, these things goes together. In 2015, 10,111 of our fatalities in the United States, they were speed related. It was 27% of our total fatalities. 34% they drove 10 miles and over. The chances of dying or being seriously injured in traffic crash doubles for every 10 miles per hour over 50 miles per hour. What does that mean? At 70 miles per hour, the chances of that person to be killed or injured, he or she is going to be almost 400%. At 80 miles per hour, it's going to be 800%. And then at 90 miles per hour, now it's going to be 1600%. So in Oregon, we had in 2015 130 of our fatalities. They were speed related, which was almost 31%. This was a speed related crash. So as this one, it was a speed related crash. It happened in Gresham. One thing that we can do, I think the public information. There is lack of information to the public. We should make public awareness that how bad are traffic crashes. The numbers of that 37,000 fatalities, nobody doesn't know it. They don't know that in the state of Oregon, we are talking about between 420 to almost 500 fatalities every single year. What it means, every day someone is losing a loved one in the state of Oregon in traffic crashes. I think public awareness, we have to work better on that one. Speed management strategy. One thing that we have to do, high profile public information campaign against speeding. Then we must have a visible enforcement and frequent enforcement. Yes? The chief is going to add cameras on 2 of his intersections. That's wonderful. But the problem is, that the people, they may avoid those intersections that it has cameras. Have you seen that trend? When you added your running red light cameras. So for that reason, we need that enforcement. We need that visibility. We need that black and white cars. We need those headlights on the top. It doesn't matter if they stop a vehicle. It matters that they are visible. The resource that the chief has, chief, I think you have what? Almost 30 officers, 28 officers? 24? 23, is it? 23. A city of almost 20,000. That means he has 1 officer for almost every 900 people. His resources is as smaller as an ant. But I like to show him he's as big as an elephant. When an elephant comes on the roadway, what happens? Everybody goes away. How about when an ant, he just walking? You put your foot on the ant. So we would like to show that we are much, much bigger than what that the public think, and that brings our visibility. And our visibility, it means that we have to be in the system all the time. Plan enforcement at varying times and location. There is a rule, it's called 6 weeks rule. When they see an officer, it has an impact for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, the people, they forget about it. Traditional enforcement is still the best. Although that we are using what? Technology, because we have a limited resources. But traditional enforcement, we can cut that impaired driver. We can cut that person who commit other crimes. The people, they are speeding for a certain reasons. Either they have a bad habit that we can modify their behavior by stopping, or they are doing other things. But if you're involved with other illegal activities, traditional enforcement can pick up that person, but photo radar running red light cameras cannot do that. And obviously we are using automated enforcement because we have such a limited resources. And it also modifies the people's behavior. Law enforcement visibility, marked versus unmarked police cars. Which one do you think is more effective?
Marked.
I strongly believe marked cars is a lot more effective than unmarked. And we would like to have visible enforcement. That the people, they see and they remember, yes, there is an enforcement in the city of Sherwood. And usually we like black and white cars with the headlights on the top. And then we also using a speed trailer. A lot of us, we may get bad habit that we may not be aware of it. As soon as that we put this speed trailer and it is in our neighborhood, I look at it, oh, the speed is supposed to be 25, I'm driving 35 miles per hour. All of a sudden I can modify my behavior. Pedestrian safety. Do you have a lot of issues with pedestrian in this area? Do you get a lot of complaints?
Yeah.
Yes.
You get a lot of complaints for pedestrians. Look at 5,987 pedestrian fatalities in 2016. A pedestrian was killed or in every 1.5 hours in the United States. 48% it involved alcohol, either the driver or pedestrian, they were involved with alcohol. Pedestrian fatalities has been the highest since 1990. If you look at 2014, it was 4,910, then we went to 5,376 in 2015, and 5,997 in 2016. And look at the trend, how badly it's going up. If we don't cure it at this point, this becomes to be just a big dinosaur by itself. And if you look at it right here, you see that we used to be in 4,000. Now we are what? We are in almost 6,000. It used to be only 11% of our fatalities in the United States. Now we are approaching to almost 16% of our fatalities. A lot of people, they think it happens at the intersection. That's not the case. 18% of pedestrian fatalities, it happens at the intersection. 82% it happens away from the intersection. So 82% of that one, it happens here or here, and 18% it happens here. How bad it is in Oregon? 74 fatalities, 874 injuries, which was 16.6 6% of our fatalities. Why did we adopt 20 miles per hour around the school areas? At 20 miles per hour, the chances of the fatality is only 5%. The chances of the injury is 65%, and no injury is 30%. At 30 miles per hour, chance of fatality is going to increase to 43%, injuries 50%, no injuries is about 7%. At 40 miles per hour, chance of fatality is 80%, injuries 20%, and no injuries is 0%. Chief, around your school areas, what speed does your officers issue citation? How many miles over? Is it 11 miles over?
It depends on the zone. Sometimes they'll issue for 5 over,
Sometimes 5 miles over?
5 to 10.
Yeah. We don't want that the people, they get that perception that we only issue citations at 11 miles and over. Because then they drive what? Up to that level.
Not in the school zones.
Not in the school zones, it's different.
I think the general message, at least that I've over the years, is you're in trouble at 5 or more
Yes?
in a 20-mile-an-hour school zone.
Yeah. On Oregon State Police, they usually start from 11 miles and over, and usually on the freeway, maybe 15 or 16 miles and over. So the people, we are changing the speed ourselves by not enforcing because of lack of resources that we have on the system. Let's go back to 1980s, the state of Oregon. It was about 2.6 million population. During that period, Oregon State Police, it used to have close to almost 600 officers on patrol division. Today, the population is almost 4.1 million, and we are talking about perhaps 450 officers on the patrol division by Oregon State Police. So we are going in the reverse direction. Rather than putting more resources, we are putting less resources, but give them more things to do. What can I do? We know that we do have problems. We have fatalities, we have injuries. State of Oregon has problems with pedestrians because the people or climate in this area, we have a lot of dark days. The people, they walk with their dog, cats, or rats, or whatever you can name it, and they only care about what? But the animal, they don't care about their lives. They are in the dark clothing. So one of the first things that we shall do to educate the public that you must be visible. We also should know where we want to be in the future. We said 0 fatalities and injuries. We also should know how to get there, and we also shall measure our progress. We do have 2 intersections that is equipped with running red light cameras. It's nothing new in the state of Oregon. We start using that one, started from city of Beaverton, that we started with photo radar for speed control in 1996. 1997, it was city of Portland. Then we went to what? They went to the other cities in the state of Oregon. Chief, can I ask you this intersection, Tarleton Sherwood and Highway 99? How many citations, what's the revenue of the citation at that intersection?
I think just from that intersection, that's tough. I'm not sure. Several $100,000.
Several $100,000, right? Now, I would like to tell you that did we change the driver's behavior? Have you seen major reduction in traffic crashes at that intersection?
You asking me?
Yes?
Yes, sir. And we've seen a reduction in red light violations
Right. There is a study that I shared with Chief just before we start this workshop. There was a study on National Institute for Highway Safety. This study was finished in August 2017. The intersections that they were equipped with running red light cameras, there was a reduction of about 21% in fatality rate. Then some cities, they discontinued the use of their running red light cameras, and they saw 30% increases in their fatalities. So it does a lot of good things. The people, you're just what? They know there is an intersection. If they go, they get a citation, and they usually comply with the law. And you see that the driver behavior is going to change substantially. So for that reason, yes, technology is good, because my officers, chief officers, cannot be at every single intersection. There was also another study. At every single intersection in the United States, there is 3.2 running red light person going through the intersection. That means every hour, 3 or more people, they go through red lights, which it translates almost what? 73 people, 72 people every single day at every intersection. So that's how bad it is. Enforcement, education, and engineering, they have to work together. Those are the 3 E's. And then we also have engineering, emergency medical services. The role of enforcement agencies, it is not just to hand in citation. It is to increase awareness, improve behavior, and reduce traffic safety problems. And we would like to be that they will be more visible than writing tickets. And they also are responsible for teaching safety, evaluate safety concerns within the community, provide police presence, and monitor drivers as well as behavior, not just hand in another ticket. I have done several major high-profile traffic fatality investigation. And the majority of these, it starts from this one right here. The people, they just dart in without looking. Especially with their what? Their smartphones these days. Their eyes, it is not really on crosswalks anymore. It is on their phone. Another process we have seen on multi-lane highways, such as, your Highway 99. This vehicle stops, but the next vehicle does not stop. We call it multi-threat. So to prevent that multi-threat, rather than using the crosswalks at stopping point, we go ahead and put a stop bar right here. By putting the stop bar right here, this vehicle is not masking that who is coming here. This vehicle can see the crosswalks. So what we are saying, especially at mid-block, we are saying that have that stop bar. You can see it that by putting this one right here, this vehicle can also see the pedestrian here. So these are some of the engineering issues. The most problem that we have in the state of Oregon as well as in the country is mid-block crossing. If we don't have a good illumination, we don't want to have any crosswalks. Let the people, they accept responsibility. By putting the crosswalks, you're giving them false sense of security. With the school bus stops, but this vehicle does not stop. So that's the time that you're going to have crash. Around the intersection, the driver looking at this guy, he doesn't pay attention that there is another person on the right side. Another problems that we have he doesn't know how much time he has to cross. So for that reason, we went to pedestrian countdown. That is at 29, 28, 27. As the number decreases, so as the speed increases. The people, they are walking with the dark clothing at night. That is the biggest issue that we have in the state of Oregon. As well as, backing. It was going to be a requirement by federal that to have all of the cameras, to have a backup camera. Then we went through recession of 2008, 2009, and they backed down from that requirements. But when these things, it goes to mass production, the price dropped down substantially. I think that's something that we definitely wanted to have at national level. So for pedestrian safety, let's work with engineering and enforcement together to educate the public. Sometimes we look at the beauty rather than, functionality. We put these architectural red bricks for what reason? For beauty, right? But we are putting this one for what? For drivers to see it. This is what pedestrians will see. Now by putting those white lines, you can see we make a big difference for the drivers, especially at night. There are dangerous driver behavior that includes speeding, failing to yield, running red lights, as well as passing stop cars, as well as passing a school bus, as well as the most important one, driver distracted. You're not paying attention to roadways. And then there are pedestrian behavior. You're disobeying the signals. Although we have signal, he's disobeying. They cross at any place that they want. They're crossing at these undesirable locations. So for that reason, I think we need better enforcement. And there is a 6-week concept. Enforcement change behavior up to 6 weeks. Behavior will return without additional enforcement. Engineering and enforcement needed for permanent solution. It is not really enforcement. It is both engineering and enforcement. They must work together. The speed trailer, is it in the possession of the law enforcement or public works department they have? You guys, how often do you move it? Do you think it's a defective, Chief?
You had to ask that. I was just commenting to Captain Carlson that we need to utilize that better. So I don't know. I think it's an effective educational tool, but it doesn't. My personal opinion is it only slows down those that realize, oh, I shouldn't be speeding, and are inclined to not speed anyway.
Right.
If the driver is inclined to speed, that sign's not going to stop them unless there's a police car sitting on the other side ready to pull them over.
Yeah, let me describe the way I see the roadways. Roads is like a river. Drivers are the fish that they are swimming in the river. At age of 16, when we issue a driver's license to young driver, he or she is my goldfish that is swimming what? Very cautiously in that river. What does he see in that river? He sees bigger fish and he sees sharks. How fast shark is swimming? Much faster. So in order he or she is going to survive, he has to swim faster and faster. Thus we change that goldfish behavior to a shark behavior at that point. And how can I keep him as a goldfish, or how can I keep her as a goldfish? It is just by what? Better enforcement. It doesn't have to translate to citation, but stopping those young drivers at a young age, I think is important to keep their behavior at that goldfish. The chief mentioned, yes, the sharks, they see that, they don't pay any attention. Only the goldfish, for the people that they were innocent, but they got the bad habit. They don't know how fast they are going. It's going to change their behavior, which is very good. And other things that we also do, we call it pedestrian enhanced operation. It used to be called sting operation. Do you do any pedestrian enhanced operation here? Has it been effective?
Yes and yes, for those that aren't looking, sorry. I'm shaking my head. We can and need to do more,
Yes?
but they have been effective.
Well, the day that you do it, you may issue 20, 30, 50 citation. But I would like that the entire city of Sherwood, they hear about it. I like the entire metro area, 2.4 million, they hear about it. Then who should we bring it on board? We must bring it media. Media can make you king or queen, at the same time they can trash you. So on those pedestrian enhanced operation, we must get the assistance from media to broadcast your activity. But we also have engineering solutions. We have a lot of roads like this. This is like your 99, right? Multi-lane, turning lane, 2 lanes per direction. Do you see any problem on this picture?
Staggered road entrances, or maybe just be that.
We have a lot of accesses. We do have utility poles. Then we do have bicyclists, but there is no facility for bicyclists. We don't have no continuous sidewalks. We must meet ADA requirements, which the state of Oregon was sued. City of Bend, they were sued. Believe me or not, one of these days they are going to knock your door. So we must meet those ADA requirements, that we must provide mobility for everyone. The other things it's also very ugly.
Yeah, it is.
Can I make it better?
Yes.
Yes, this is the same. What we have done, putting a plantation strips for separation of pedestrian from motorists, putting the nice sidewalks, 6 feet sidewalks, 6 feet bicycle lanes on each side, a turning lane, then also plantation. Those plantation we are using as a traffic calming to cause irritation to traffic. One thing perhaps I disagree on this picture, put plantation here. Those are very, very difficult to maintain. I have handicap ramp, but I cannot cross him or her because there is no curve cuts here, right? But the other things it is, as she's standing right here, I don't have, she may go up to here. To go all the way from one side to the other side, you have to have a big gap in the traffic stream, which we may not have it. So for that reason, I need a pedestrian refuge island here. And then we care about our environment. We care about Oregon beauty, and we think that the beauty is the trees, which they are. But some trees, they can be a killer. This tree right here, the way that it has been hit before, is telling you that I am a killer, kill me before I kill someone. And this was a brand new construction in the city of Beaverton. Do you know where his Big Al's is?
Yeah.
And you know, just when they wanted to open it, they put a tree on front of every sign. Then this is in city of Lake Oswego. The neighbor cares about the beauty of their mailbox, and they are putting these big lumbers. And they are putting it in public right away. If someone hits this one, who is responsible?
The city, probably.
It's going to be the city, because it is within their public right away. You know, the case goes to the court look at it, who had the duty? The duty of the city, it was to provide a safe and efficient travel for traveling public. Then they look at it, who breached the duty? It was the city. They look at it if their conduct was the reason for that fatal crash or injury crash. And if they can prove those things, then they call it acts of negligence. And it's very easy to prove it in the court that was acts of negligence. Sometimes we care about the beauty of these mailboxes. I can show you the video on this one, how killer these mailboxes can be when it's being hit. And so as this one. Road surface. Another issue for us that our decision makers, they should recognize it. If I spend $1 here in my road surface, I may save $4 or $5 about 3 years from now. City of Sherwood, it has problems with your asphalt. It is better to invest it right now rather than 4 or 5 times later. Now this is a brand new construction within our neighboring city here. Do I have a nice sidewalks? I do. Do I have plantation strips? But are these unusual? A blind person, does he expect these? We don't want to go anything unusual. Although it's beauty, but we don't want that landscapers, they control safety. And so as this one, so unusual, it's pretty, it's gorgeous. But again, when you are walking, are you expecting these? Especially with today's that our brain is not working anymore. Our brains is focusing more on what? On smartphones or other things. Some of the other things that we can do, we can go to road dieting. I have 2 lanes per directions. What it can happen, since I have that freedom, I can go to this lane, change the lane several times. How about if we go to 3 lanes? In this case, we provided 3 lanes, then I don't have those crashes anymore. If I don't need the capacity, it's better just to go to road dieting, having 1 lane per direction, and use the other area, the other width that I have for bicycle lanes and other users. We can have a wide lane just to have the bicyclists on it, or we can provide exclusive lane for bicyclists. Don't think that the roads is only for the cars. The roads are what? For cars, for pedestrians, it's also for bicyclists, it's also for transit, as well as others. For that reason, City of Portland, they came with what? Green boxes. Originally, we had more crashes. Why?
We didn't know what to do.
I don't understand those things.
Actually, it speed up. The speed of the bicyclists went up. They went, our people, they went to Amsterdam, to Europe, and they find out these are effective. But at the same time, we tried it here. At the beginning, it was not really successful. But later on, the people, they accepted. And now we are getting a good results on these. Traffic calming. Another things that we can do is traffic calming by making what? The roads to be shared by multi-users, pedestrian, bicyclists, people that are race family, as well as transit. What's the objective? To improve neighborhood livability, enhance safety for residents, and also support a multimodal transportation system. One of the very effective traffic calming has been speed humps, which they call it speed bumps. Does it reduce the speed? Yes, it reduces the speed by about 6 to 7 miles per hour. But we did have problems with emergency vehicles. So rather than using speed humps, we call these a speed cushion, which we open up for the width of that emergency vehicle, not to reduce the response time. The other things that we also use is speed tables, which has a flat top, and we use that one also for what? Pedestrian crossings. And another things that we are trying, and you guys also have a couple of those, it is roundabouts. What's the beauty of the roundabout? This is a 4-lane intersection, and the red dots that you're seeing, those are all of the conflicts between the vehicles and pedestrians. Those are the ways that the people, they can hit each other. At 4-way intersection, there are 32 conflict modes. By making this one roundabout, we only have 8 conflict points, 1 merging, 1 diverging at each lane. If I make your streets 1 way, then I can cause 5 conflict points. The other things that we also can do to reduce the speed is by using curve extensions. By using curve extension, I am minimizing the exposure of pedestrian to the traffic. At the same time, I am improving the visibility of that pedestrian. At the same time, we are reducing the speed because the people, they have to go around here. One thing problem that we have, if they don't design it correctly, you are going to have what?
Parking.
Some drainage issues right here. Safety performance of the roundabout. When we use roundabout, it reduced the fatalities by 90 to 100%. Injuries was reduced to 75%. And 35% reductions in total crashes. Very, very effective, right? But you see it here. Some of the first roundabout, it was in City of Bend. This is on 14 and Colorado Street, 1991. Very, very effective. And City of Bend, they have about 31, I think 31 roundabout right now. This is City of Sherwood. Have you seen this one?
Where is it? Where is it?
Cedar Creek.
There, very good. Give you bonus points.
Yes. You know, although that it looks very pretty, but I don't like it. Why I don't like it?
Because you can't see through it because of all the.
It has a good deflectors right here. It has a good, it is design-wise, it's okay. I don't like all of these.
Can't see it.
Because of what?
Can't see.
It is the people, they pay more attention to that waterfalls.
Uh-huh.
And we are providing this one for what?
Traffic.
For traffic movement. It is like that you have a bunch of cheerleaders, they are cheering at the center of your intersection. Are you going to pay attention to your driving task? So for that reason, you know, do not let landscapers dictate what's going to be pretty. What may be pretty, it may not be as functional. A lot of people, they like to live at the end of the cul-de-sacs. I myself, I hate it. Why?
Everyone turns around.
I like to have the connectivity of the system. If there is going to be an emergency right here, how we are going to serve this retirement house? If I had this one open, then I can increase my emergency medical service response time. When we are talking about, you know, 4 or 5 seconds in the heart attack, it makes a big difference. Why it became to be so popular cul-de-sacs in this country? Because of what the developers, they can get more lots out of this one. That was the reason. Less parking space, but more lots, more buildable rights. This is in city of Newport Beach, the city of Newport, Oregon. And we are using curve extension again to for what?
Slow down.
When the road is straight, the speed increases. That is, we are using as traffic calming. This is in the city of like Oswego. This is one of those green streets. This does not have any curb and gutters. And you still see that the people, they are relaxing. It is by design. Are you partnering with your community? Do you get a lot of inputs from your community, what they want?
It's our goal.
Do they come to the meetings?
No.
But they usually come to complain, right?
Email,
No, that's social media.
yeah,
Social media,
Facebook and email.
right?
But
Uh,
are those
but-
all Russians?
Working with the community is important.
Took me a minute.
They recognize the problems. When you're just a decision maker, you may not recognize that problem that they see. And then we also have to build partnership with our community. We want to use media, engage community, and measure effectiveness. Effective partnership is going to be with decision makers. You're the spokesman for the public. That includes our city councilors. How many city councilors we have here tonight? 3 of you out of 7, which is very good. Then we do have engineers and planners. Do we have any engineers and planners? You, right?
On the planning division.
Planning division. Then do we have any health profession? No? Nothing from media, community representative. Obviously, we do have law enforcement. Yeah. The chief as well as or traffic sergeant, right?
Yeah.
Captain. Captain. Sorry. As well as, we also have to work with the transit officials. The last thing it is, you must be partnering with the media. Media, positive relationship with all types of media, print, radio, as well as television, will help ensure agency credibility among the public. You want to work with media. As I told you before, media can make you queen or king. At the same time, they can trash you. Media always can get their information. But on voluntary basis, if you provide those information, they put it with a nice print, but with a nice attitude. If they try to get it from you, then you will see it with the red ink. It's reading all over. So, working with the media, it helps ensure that public safety messages reach their intended target audience. Law enforcement officers must focus on changing driver behavior during traffic stops. It's not really about citation, it's about changing the behaviors. Frequent law enforcement contact with the violators will change their behavior. I would like to thank you for being such a wonderful audience and for your commitment to traffic safety. And you do have my information on the last pages of the book. I would like to thank also to Chief to make this one possible for us. We really appreciate it. And one of the last things that I'd like to bring to your attention, within the next 7 years, the industry is working on driverless vehicles. Do you see that 95% of our problems, they were driver behavior or pedestrian behavior? With driver's vehicle, we are taking that human factors out of the equation. And we are very optimistic about it. We do have technology right now that they can put those cars on the system. Why the industry has not been rushing into it? The major point right now is safety and security of the system. Someone can hack the system and they can cause several 100,000 crashes in a matter of a fraction of the second. But look at just what can happen. If you do have those driverless vehicles, the car, he brought you to this workshop, he goes back home, takes your kids to the game, come back and pick you up right now, take you home. Tomorrow, your grandma and grandpa, they want to go to the doctor. They have mobility. So there are going to be a lot of issues is going to be resolved. And then the number of the cars on the system, we think that's going to drop down because you don't need as many cars. We don't need to build parking structures anymore because the park it goes and park itself at the location which the land doesn't have that much value. So a lot of exciting things is happening. with the exceptions of the Uber fatality that we had a few days ago. But overall, I think the technology is on the right track. And most of the industry, they think they will put that one in the system within 7 years. So, all right. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience and to stay and listen to me for 1 hour and a half. We really appreciate it. But if you do have any questions or so, I can entertain your question. Or if you do have any questions in the future, you're welcome to call me anytime. So, thank you. And again, thanks to Chief as well as his assistant. Please express my sincere thanks to Ms. Hess, please. Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yes, sir, please.
Back in the 70s in Berkeley, they did diversions to control traffic going through the residential communities and keep the traffic going to and from on the main streets. And they had barriers across the streets, but they had the ability for emergency vehicles
To pass.
to go through. I was there 2 years ago, and this is almost 40 years later, and they still are there. They haven't removed them, but I haven't seen that engineering idea used anywhere else. I just was curious if you had any thoughts. Was that just a Berkeley peculiarity?
Yes,
or?
it is more Berkeley. And you also know their culture is a lot
Yes.
different than us.
Yes.
Sure. We don't want to lose the connectivity of the system.
Right.
You said there is an opening for the emergency, which we do it on regular basis in neighborhood, but still you're losing the connectivity of the system.
Yeah.
So, please.
Do you have information about, I know Portland just changed their whole
Speed.
to 20 miles per hour, and I saw your data about the difference between fatality at 20 miles per hour versus 30 miles an hour. Is 20 miles an hour in all residential zones, not just our school zone, something the community should consider?
But the speed is very complex. And what we use what we call it 85th percentile speed. What does that mean? We think that 85% of the people, they are prudent and they are wise and they drive at that speed or below that speed, which is safe for them as well as safe for the others. There was a study by Transportation Research Board in 1996 to 1998, and they find out changing the speed, it is not going to change for 85th percentile speed. It is just the perception of the Bureau of the Traffic of City of Portland. Lowering that speed without enforcement is not going to be effective at all. We always use speed with other factors. It is not one measure that can do it. By putting a bunch of signs with no enforcement, there is not going to be effective at all. But if they come with a good enforcement, good education, as well as good engineering, then we can change it. In my opinion, it's not going to change anything at all in the city of Portland, because still the people, they drive at that 85th percentile speed. How long have we been using 85th percentile speed? Since 1940s. As I said, almost 50 years later, there was a big study in the country, and we find out changing the lowering or the increasing or decreasing the speed is not going to change the 85th percentile speed. Right now, in the state of Oregon on I-5, 65 miles per hour. For 85th percentile speed, most likely is about 74 miles per hour. Between Portland to Eugene, around Corvallis area, or 85th percentile speed could be about 76 miles per hour. On Highway 97, between Bend as well as Klamath Falls, or 85% of the speed usually is about 15, 16 miles over the posted speed. So in my opinion, it's not going to change anything at all, unless we do have a good enforcement. It's not just, the plate does not do anything at all. Sure.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
So the magic number is 6 weeks for education, so that we retain, speed limit, flashing light and all of that. So, how do you educate people to keep it in their brain?
Yes, the education cannot start at age of 18, 19. The education shall start from elementary school, then middle school, and then it goes to high school. My son, when he was 4 years old, he looked at my speedometer of my vehicle. Then he was just start reading the numbers. He looked at just the speed on the freeway, and he said, "Dad, 65 miles per hour." And he asked me, "Dad, I never seen a speed more than 65. Why your speedometer reads 160 miles per hour?" Do I have the technology to control that speed at 65 miles per hour? Yes, we do. Why we don't do that? Because of what? Freedom. Freedom that we have in this country, right? Why we cannot control the guns? Because of freedom, right? Second Amendment. We have technology that we can look at your back of your vehicle from here without even touching. But that's called unwarranted search. We do have, some states, they have roadblocks that they stop the vehicle and they check every single person. For what? For alcohol. We don't do that in the state of Oregon. So there are a lot of things can be changed. Things shall change with our legal system. Our legal system with citation, it changed a few years ago, 10 years ago, that, it used to be that the judge could reduce the fine, but right now the judge can only reduce to a certain amount, or they can dismiss the citation. So I think, education shall start at much younger age, which I told you, when I have that goldfish, let's keep it that goldfish. The behavior cannot be changed after the age of 18, and the more that we grow up, the bad behaviors that we have, it start getting its own personality, and we cannot change that personality at that age. Any other questions for me, please?
As you travel to the communities around the country and you present the information relative to engineering, education, and enforcement, what are the primary barriers you're hearing relative to action?
The primary barrier that I have seen, it is lack of the knowledge of the public. And that knowledge, it's not really, tonight I have 3 of your decision makers here. I have your chief of the police here. But does the 19,500 people in the community, they see that? No. I think, the more education that we do, like the police department, they have what? Do you have a column that you write it every week?
No.
About your activities?
The police
Monthly.
Monthly. I think the more education that we give it to the public, we get more support.
Well, you gave evidence of engineering, enforcement, and education, and
Right.
how it can impact these items. But we have communities that get the information, then they go home.
And they
don't
forget
do
about it.
So what are those barriers? Is it a budget issue?
It's,
Is it a prioritization issue?
it is budget, prioritizations, as well as politics. let's look at it in the state of Oregon. We are building big projects. We like to build bridges because it gives us a lot of visibility, right? We like to build a bridge with no vehicles on it.
Yeah.
You know how much that project cost us?
Too much.
Too much, 1.6 billion. How much was it per linear inch? $3,400 per linear inch. So we do have those money, but sometimes I don't have $1,000 to put a 4-way stop sign because it doesn't give the politicians visibility. I think we should start it again from decision makers at the top level. And then obviously we shall educate the public. You know, I told these gentlemen today, or your city councilors, you don't spend that dollar today in road surface, you better pay $4 or $5 3 or 5 years from now. So they know it, they have the choice. It is rather than paying today or rather than paying 3 or 4 times, 5 times later. That happened, you know, in some of our counties, that the road became to be almost impassable and they had to pass a hefty bond measure. The road which we could save it with $2 million, now they have to spend $10 million. Right? I think, you know, education as well as reaching to our decision makers is going to be a factor. Did I tell you at the beginning that 5% of the police resources is spent in traffic related issues? Is it a good estimate in your department?
Well, out of 23, we have one.
Out of 23 funds, so 5%.
Responsibility is supposed to be traffic, but
Right.
it gets pulled away to help cover patrol. And
Right?
so I guess in that respect, yeah, 5% would probably
All right.
be a high estimate.
All right, Chief. And let me give you a scenario. Today, your city councilors, they come and say that you have to cut one position. You do have the traffic officer, then you have a detective. Which one do you lay off?
Traffic.
Traffic. Traffic always takes the backseat to the other aspects of the policing. What is number one complaint that it comes to your office?
Traffic.
Traffic.
Hey, and folks, I didn't pay him.
Yeah, budget coming up, yeah.
But, I mean, that's, you know, the reality is there's difficult, sometimes priority decisions that have to be made. When you're talking about somebody that's going to investigate child abuse and person crimes,
Right?
compared to somebody that's going to write traffic tickets, and, I mean, you know, thankfully, we don't have to make that decision. But,
Right?
and then the other special assignment we have is a school resource officer.
Sure.
So if I pull that one out of the schools, my goodness, parents are going to want my head on a platter.
That's what the phone's gonna be ringing.
And look at, you know, the publicity that we are getting for unfortunate case that we had in Vegas, unfortunate that we had with the school shooting, and unfortunate case that we had it with the 2001. But every single month in the United States, once September 11th, it happens on the roadway. Every single month. But nobody doesn't pay attention to it. That's how bad it is. And it's very frustrating that we know the facts, but we cannot do sometimes that much. Sure. Any other questions for me, please? Thank you.
This is more of a comment. I went to visit traffic court a few weeks ago, and nobody's guilty. The cameras lied. Nobody said, "Thank you for calling this to my attention. I will slow down." So when you're trying to teach people to change their behavior, big resistance, because I don't have any bad behavior.
No
It is
accountability.
everybody else's fault except your fault. Yes, and I have been observing, sometimes I go to the court just to observe the people's behavior. And again, it's always their fault. Not their fault, it's the other people, the police officer's fault.
How did he make me go fast?
Yeah,
Stop it.
sure. Any other questions for me? Again, thank you to Chief. Thank you for all of you that you were here. We really appreciate it. You are very, very precious that to come and spend your time with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.